Hello everyone. Before I start the video, I have a very special announcement to make. So, ever since my last video, I started doing something special where I host my own little quiz, where you, the viewers, will be guessing what game I'll be reviewing next. And if you guessed right, you'll be rewarded with a special shoutout in whatever video the quiz was about. So, the quiz for this video was just a picture of the GameCube and the Switch 2. I was afraid that this would be a bit too hard. But not long after I made that post, someone immediately answered correctly, and that person was Chomsy. Chomsy, my buddy. Well frickin' done, dude. You won the quiz that I genuinely thought would be too hard, and yet you proved me wrong by a long shot. Thank you, and the only other member for participating. Alright, announcement's over. On to the video. Mr. Ninblasto's Game Reviews! The Switch 2. By far the most controversial console I've ever seen in my entire life. You either love the thing, or you hate it. I've had mine since launch, and I've gotta say, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I currently have 3 games for it, and it's one of the big 3 that I want to talk about today. And that is, of course, Kirby Air Riders. Before I talk about that game, though, I do want to talk about the first game, because there's a lot of stuff that this game has that was brought back into the sequel. So let's fill that in now. You know what that means? I can finally talk about a GameCube game on the channel. I've waited so long, bro. So unlike every single game I've reviewed, I don't really have my own history for this game. It's just one of those games I've heard of for years, but never got to play the game myself until I finally got it on December 1st of 2022. But, I bet you didn't know this, but Kirby Air Ride is actually my #1 favorite GameCube game. And I didn't think I'd be able to talk about it this soon, and yet here we are. It's by far the most unique racing game I've played.
Anycom Racing!
I said unique, not the best. The idea of Air Ride is having 3 game modes in one. Air Ride, 3D fast-paced racing. Top Ride, shorter, more bite-sized racing, but with more chaos thanks to the items. And, the star of the show, City Trial. You're on a big map with a whole bunch of items to collect, and these items boost your stats, which is needed for you to perform the best in whatever challenge awaits for you in the end. In Air Ride, you and 3 others race around many different tracks, but sadly there isn't a lot of them, only 9, but they're all really good. Except that one. The environments are all so appealing to look at, and are filled with so much life despite this being a 22-year-old game. There's so many secrets and shortcuts that feel way more hidden than the ones from Mario Kart. Where Air Ride is most unique is its version of karts, which are called machines. Machines barely hover over the ground. They automatically accelerate, and controlling them is more different than any other racing game. In this game, you literally only play using one button, the A button. The A button and the joystick is all you use, but the A button has a variety of different functions. Holding the A button is how you brake, and is also how you drift. Just hold the A button when turning, and let go to boost after you charge this meter up. It of course charges whenever you hold the A button, just like drifting in Mario Kart. Doing this is very satisfying. This game doesn't have any items, but it does have enemies, and when you defeat one, you get a little speed boost. Pressing A near an enemy will result in you in inhaling them, but you can also do a spin attack by tilting left and right quickly. Inhaling enemies that have special abilities will of course allow you to copy them, and these can be used to defeat enemies easier and attack opponents. The sword ability lets you automatically attack enemies and players when they're near you. Wheel and Wing fully replace your machine in exchange for a new moveset. Wheel lets you go faster, and Wing lets you fly like there isn't a care in the world. Every other ability has you press the A button or sometimes even use the control stick to do specific moves. And unlike Mario Kart, instead of getting absolutely clobbered when you get hit, you just lose a little speed. However, you also have the option to include health, which is like how retirement works in games like F-Zero. And with retirement on, each machine has their own health stat, and this is a lot more fun if you ask me, but also more hectic. But as for the machines themselves, that's where Air Ride is most unique compared to other racing games. But it's also this game's biggest flaw. In Mario Kart, you have a variety of different vehicles, each with their own stats. Air Ride is no different, except the ups and downs are a lot bigger than Mario Kart. Take the Swerve Star for example. This is my absolute favorite one in the game. It has the best acceleration in the game, and is very fast. Okay, what's its flaws? You can't turn with it at all. Asterisk. You see, it does have the worst handling in the game, but only when it's moving. All you gotta do to turn it is to hold the A button, and then it steers. It also turns pretty quickly, so you're able to take turns rapidly too. Its other weakness is its glide stat. That's right, unique to Air Ride is the inclusion of gliding. It's definitely the highlight of the controls in the game for me, because it's just so much fun to do. And no, it does not work the same as gliding in the modern Mario Kart games. Go off a ramp or ledge, and you start gliding. The Swerve Star, however, has very bad gliding, so it can't do a lot of the fancy stuff that, say, the Wing Star can do. And the reason why the machines themselves are Air Ride's biggest flaw is because they're just incredibly unbalanced. Mainly because there's always one machine that just dominates in a track that the others just can't compete with. Formula Star on Nebula Belt, for example. This machine has the best speed in the game, but in return has probably the worst acceleration as well. So you'd probably only be able to use this properly in a track that's nothing but straight lines. Oh. And then there's the Bulk Star. The worst machine in the game. Wanna know what you do with this one? Hold the A button to charge it because it doesn't move on its own, and then just watch it go. Oh, it's out of charge. Let me refill it again. Let's watch the max level CPUs use any kind of machine. Okay, they're pretty good. Now, let's see them use the Bulk Star. Yeah, it's that bad. As for the different characters you can play, there's only 3. Kirby, King Dedede, and Meta Knight. Dedede and Meta Knight can't use any different machines. Heck, Meta Knight doesn't even use a machine. He just goes. King Dedede uses a wheelie bike and feels very heavy. He does automatically swing his hammer when near enemies and other players too, so that's pretty cool. Not my character of choice though. And Meta Knight is like a mix of the wing ability and the sword ability. He controls just like the wing ability, but he also automatically swings his sword just like the sword ability. It's a shame that you can't pick machines for these characters, because it's really nice to have them in the game at all. They just feel very limited compared to Kirby. Moving on to Top Ride, I don't have much to say because, well, let me just show you what happens when I clear a stage. And it's the only reason why I never fully completed this game. Oh yeah, the checklist. These are pretty much a whole bunch of achievements to unlock when playing. This is how you unlock every character, stage, etc. I completed it on both of the other modes, but it remains like this on Top Ride because, well, that happened. So because of that, I've never actually fully completed the game, which is sad. So I guess I just have to wait until I either get the disc resurfaced, or just fully rebuy the game, which, I really don't want to do for obvious reasons. But it's simply just top-down racing with more beefy items. And now I can finally talk about the one, the only, City Trial. I pretty much already summed up why it's so good just by briefly explaining it, but there are some important gaps I left, so let's fill those in now. City Trial takes place on a big map with so many little locations that are all different. You and 3 others can freely explore this map, and you can interact with some of the stuff here and there. But most importantly, you power up your machine by collecting items that boost your stats. All of them are pretty self-explanatory, like speed up or attack up, which are exactly what you think they are. So yeah, you'll want to collect as many of these as you can. And different machines spawn in too, so you'll definitely want to find your favorite if you can. You'll want to swap what you currently have for something different because the Combat Star, the machine everyone starts with, is useless. So you'll definitely want something different because almost anything is infinitely better. Yes, you can hop off your machine. Though the moveset is limited, with only being able to run and jump as well as have 5 mid-air jumps, it's a lot of fun to explore. You can tell this was used to test how Kirby would move in 3D, since there was a scrapped Kirby game for the GameCube that had Kirby in 3D, but that was mainly implemented so that you can change what machine you wanted. And of course, random events occur too. This can both benefit you and the opposite, and then there's some stuff that just exists, so it'll keep you on your toes when one occurs. And after time runs out, you and the other players duke it out in a random event that's called a stadium. This can be different stuff like who can glide the longest, or kill everyone. Or just a haha funny little target game. Yippee. But the best part about City Trial is definitely the legendary air ride machines. You have 3 different colored boxes, blue for simple power-ups, green for items, and orange for copy abilities. However, in specific areas, there's also a chance to get legendary air ride machine parts from orange boxes. And collecting 3 of the same parts will result in you in completing a legendary air ride machine. The 2 of them are Dragoon, a machine that pierces through the air with its insane acceleration and highest gliding abilities in the game, and Hydra, a super speed demon that can destroy anything, and I mean anything, in its way. Once you obtain these, it's pretty much fair game. Also, remember when I said DDD and Meta Knight were playable? So how do they work in City Trial? You can only use them in the free run mode where you just freely explore the map. Isn't that a lot of fun? Don't you just want to freely explore the map with these characters and not actually play the game? However, there is a little something you can do with King Dedede. He's actually the only boss in this entire game. One of the stadium events that can occur is fighting King Dedede himself. I have no idea why it is this hard, but I just remember dying over and over and over again when I first got the game, because he's just ridiculously hard. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. But yeah, City Trial is the reason why this game is so loved. And it's crazy how it's so much fun despite me already having hundreds of hours in this mode alone. The more I played this game, the more I wanted a sequel for this game despite how unlikely it sounded. So now let's talk about the game's sequel. I can't believe that Sakurai came back for this game. It's a dream come true. Sure, the logo isn't like how other Kirby games are, which is kind of odd since we already got a bit of a redesign not even half a decade ago. And these designs usually last for a while. But hey, it looks more like Smash Bros at least. And right into the intro cutscene, this game already feels so Sakurai-like. This game also has 3 of the same modes from the first game, but now with the inclusion of the road trip mode, which I'll talk about later. Air Ride is essentially the same, but now with great tweaks. For example, all the machines are now properly balanced. Yippee! Now there's 6 racers compared to 4, which is still tiny compared to Mario Kart World, but it's still nice. Plus, we have even more characters from the series to choose from now, which is amazing since I love them all. And now DDD and Meta Knight can actually go on different machines. Except what are you doing here? A cooler version of you already exists, so what gives? They all have their own additional stats, but it's a much smaller scale than the machines themselves. What's weird about them all is that now, anyone can inhale and copy abilities, which is weird because if you're familiar with Kirby at all, you know that copying abilities is exclusive to Kirby himself, and no one else. Except for Gooey, of course. And new to Air Riders is the inclusion of, essentially, final smashes. Each character has their own unique one, and these are a good way to attack enemies and gain speed. And with retirement on, these are even more useful thanks to how powerful they are. There's now double the amount of tracks from the first game, which is still underwhelming sadly, but hey, at least you have 9 new ones, and full-on remakes of the 9 previous ones. And the new ones are just absolutely fantastic. And with the more balanced nature of Air Riders, the old tracks now feel really good to play on. And this game supports GameCube controllers, and I gotta say, the controls don't feel different at all from the first game when playing on a GameCube controller. And that's a good thing because the first game already has spectacular controls. Now let's take a look at the other modes. Top Ride is still Top Ride, not really much else to say, but hey, at least I can actually play it now. We got an even bigger checklist to complete, and now in Air Riders, there's a lot more achievements to get. And is now expanded into 5 different groups instead of 3. Air Ride, Top Ride, City Trial, Road Trip, and Online. Speaking of City Trial, it's mostly the same but now in a different area called Skya. And there's way more than 4 people at a time now. We got some new events like going through rings and items appearing on rails. Dynablade was the only boss that appeared as an event in the first game, but now we got new ones on top of Dynablade returning, Krako and Mega Wheelie. You can once again hop off your machine and explore the area, but now you can hold the B button to change the machines more quickly. New to Skya is the little sky islands far off in the distance that you can go to if you have enough glide, and these are filled with a whole bunch of more stat boosts. There's also these small little rounds that randomly occur in Skya, where you do a little quick race or quick battle royale to compete for victory, and the better you do, the more stat boosts you earn. And of course, the Dragoon and Hydra are back. Dragoon feels mostly the same, but Hydra feels even better now. Why? Because it doesn't take 10 years to charge up anymore. That's right, it got buffed. And now there's even more bosses to fight. Instead of it just being the same old DDD fight, you can now fight 4 bosses. You have Robo DDD, Kirby's first real threat, Nightmare, the Disney twist villain, Marx. What the heck? You can both play as Marx and fight him? Oh, okay, Sakurai. And of course, the creator of Dark Matter, 02. All of these bosses are really fun and awesome, and are actually a lot easier than DDD from the first game, thank God. And you have no idea how happy I am that I can finally be able to play these modes online. It's a dream come true. Ever since I first played the first game, I always thought that a sequel with online play would be amazing, yet here we are. So yeah, the main 3 modes are mostly the same, just significantly better. Anyways, now I can finally talk about the new Road Trip mode, which is also this game's story mode. The mode itself is pretty much what you can do in the 3 main modes, but you can choose one of the 3 challenges there are, and completing them boosts your stats similar to City Trial. There's also rest areas where you can get some as well, same with the shops. Gameplay wise, this is really great and gives you a change of pace each time. It gives you a little hint of every single mode in the game in one mode. It's really cool. But it also has one major flaw that I'll get onto later. First, I gotta talk about the story. That's right, a sequel to a spin-off game that had no explanation for what these machines are and why Kirby is racing has a story, and it's actually canon. And that honestly makes me so happy. Anyways, onto the story. Deep within space, there was an asteroid-looking thing called Zora, which is a living machine that possesses its own will. But it's unable to move on its own, and it drifted through the universe until it eventually reached planet Popstar. It crash-landed within a barren, isolated region on Popstar, unable to move itself, and just watched time fly. It remained trapped in place for what felt like forever. Zora remained still for all these years, yet it still remained conscious, until finally, it wished to move freely and move on its own. This wish traveled through Popstar until it reached none other than the Fountain of Dreams. After all of these years, we learned that the fountain is able to take wishes and shoot them out into the sky, which resulted in Zora's wish to reach out into the universe. And that's how Zora's wish reached out into, get this, Galactic Nova of all things. I thought this thing was destroyed twice. And there's yet another one? Did the other one get repaired? Is this one of the other ones that Magolor talked about? I don't know, but anyways, Zora's wish reached Nova, and Nova immediately got to work inside itself to make this wish come true, for something that revolved around moving freely. Advanced technology created what is known as mobile machines. They were made in all shapes and sizes, and get this, that means that Wheelie from some of the first games in the series was a machine from Galactic Nova's creation after all these years. Once they were finished, Nova released all the machines into orbit, and they began to fall towards Popstar, like shooting stars. But when the machines fell to Popstar, many were destroyed on impact, but some of them, on the other hand, survived, and encountered their own riders. The vehicles can't activate themselves on their own, but once the riders shared their own will, they sprang to life. Once paired, machines and riders became like a duo. Air ride machines would eventually become a common sight, and became an indispensable part of their riders' lives. But Nova's wish-granting work was not finished. With the machines now complete, Nova turned to Zora, delivering worker drones and materials. Zora was torn to pieces, because the machines were made for Zora, and now Zora was being rebuilt as a monstrous machine called Gigantus. Gigantus is a weapon capable of destroying anything on the planet, and in its core, Zora's will was trapped once again. Just like the air ride machines, Gigantus is unable to move itself, and a whole lot of combined willpower is required to activate this dreadnought-sized vehicle. If enough of Nova's machines brought their strong-willed riders together, their wills would form a spark of ignition, and Gigantus would also become alive. Nova had a plan to make riders and their machines to gather before Gigantus on their own. Through a quiet transmission, Nova commanded its vehicles all over Popstar to return to their true origin. Most vehicles and riders failed to sense Nova's command, but that's because they were weak of will, and not the desired target. Only a handful of keen vehicles and riders could even sense the command at all, and with no apparent reason or purpose, each pair began a journey toward Gigantus. Instinctively, the machines were returning to their true origin, Zora. Doing this would activate Gigantus, and destroy all of Popstar. Vehicles from all over rushed towards Zora, who awaited them at their journey's end. However, right before Zora was reconstructed, a fragment of Zora's will broke free, copying the form of a certain rider that is well known on the planet. And with that, Nor DDD took off. Zora's wish to roam freely had finally come true, but now was not the time to celebrate the wish. If Gigantus were activated, the planet would be destroyed. Nor DDD destroyed each and every machine that was trying to return to Zora, struggling in secret to prevent from the worst outcome. It would not stop until every single one was destroyed. And now, we've finally made it to the final battle. The machine we're riding activates Gigantus, and we can finally battle it. The fight itself is really dang cool. I have never seen anything like this in a Kirby game. What you have to do is attack the areas that are red on Gigantus' body, and once you do, its eye turns red, and then you can attack it as well. And after beating it, Nor DDD tries to get back to Gigantus, but little does he know is that doing so would result in a terrible outcome. So we have to race him to Gigantus in order to stop the tragedy, and once we do, Gigantus is destroyed. Nor DDD fades away, and Nova decides to go elsewhere. But wait! that was just a fake ending. There's a whole secret version of the final boss that actually holds the true ending. You have to start a New Game Plus and collect every machine you come across on Road Trip, but now is also the time where I can talk about Road Trip's biggest flaw, which is also the only flaw this game really has. You see, once you beat the game, you unlock a new super hard difficulty. Only problem is that you can't change the difficulty again when you've already started. The reason why that's a bad thing is because some of these Road Trip challenges are absolutely broken. I wouldn't have a problem with this if I could just easily retry again when I lose. But no, if you fail a challenge on Road Trip, you have to do the whole route all over again. Unless you made it to a halfway point, then you have to start all over again from that area. This doesn't sound bad on paper, because it doesn't take too long to get back where you left off, but losing a lot of times to the same thing results in this getting very, very repetitive. But again, this is the only flaw that this game has, and it's only if you play it on the super hard difficulty, so just do yourself a favor and don't do what I did, please. Anyways, getting to Gigantus with every machine results in all of the machines awakening Gigantus, which results in Gigantus being even more powerful than before. But this time, Nord DDD sees what happened and decides to help you, so he calls upon Dragoon and Hydra so that you and Nord DDD can stop Gigantus together. The fight itself is pretty much the same, but a bit harder. But it's when you defeat Gigantus when it gets different. After you defeat it, Nord DDD combines the Dragoon and the Hydra to deal the final blow. And when this happens, Gigantus shoots out a laser that reaches Nova, and we use this as the main path to stop Nova. But as that happens, literally out of nowhere, a freaking lion called Leo appears. This thing is literally unexplained and makes no sense at all. But you can ride it as a machine and it's awesome, so moving on. We use Leo to make it to Nova, while Nova sends in the main bosses in the game. Robo DDD, 02, Nightmare, and of course, Marks. Until we finally reach Nova and destroy it from the inside in good old Superstar fashion. Until the final blow is dealt and Nova explodes. Sakurai did the thing! He did the thing from Superstar! Nord DDD returns to Zora's body, and the machines circle in the sky to reshape Zora's old body and return it to space, thus ending Kirby Air Riders. And man, this was such a nice surprise of a game. Ever since I first played Air Ride, I imagined what a sequel would look like on the Switch, except I imagined that it had to be downgraded as heck, because City Trial in the first game already had to make a lot of downgrades, like with the textures, in order for it to still run at 60 FPS, despite the full area always being loaded in. But of course, it still lagged a lot when multiple things were happening in-game. Air Riders being on the Switch 2 is such a blessing, because all of those downgrades I imagined weren't featured at all, because the Switch 2 is an absolute beast. Despite that though, there are some visual flaws that I did notice that were kind of jarring to look at. For example, the resolution is pretty low, which makes a lot of sense because there is a lot of stuff happening in this game, so it's justified. It does change depending on the mode too, due to the fluctuating resolution. Air Ride in City Trial runs at 1080p to 1152p, and Top Ride, being the least demanding, runs at a beautiful 1440p. It's not that big of a deal though, because the Switch 2 is far better at anti-aliasing than the Switch 1, so it does look pretty clean despite it being pretty low. But in the rest areas and Road Trip, it does look pretty bad. That's just the rest area though. And hey, the game still runs at a stable 60 FPS, so I'd take that any day over this game being like 4K 30 FPS. There are a few other things I left out in this video that are just smaller things, like the license card you can edit for people to see online. Speaking of online, the ranking system that exists is far better than GSP and Smash Ultimate. And of course, gummies. Ever wanted to play with gummies before? Well, now you can! But the last thing I want to talk about is the custom designs you can make for machines. There are a lot of cool ones, and the amount of customizations there are is super polished and very well designed. So yeah, that's Kirby Air Ride, and most importantly, its sequel, Kirby Air Riders. The first game I give a 9.5 out of 10. There are some things that definitely could have been better, but the core gameplay is really fun and addicting, and has had me come back to this game ever since I got it 3 years ago. And Kirby Air Riders is the definition of a perfect sequel. I give Kirby Air Riders a 9.9 out of 10. Only flaw is what I mentioned with Road Trip, but the game itself is one of the best games I have ever played in my life. So if you ever see this game at the store, you might get skeptical on the $70 price tag, but just remember this. This is a Sakurai game. What? Whoa! Whoa!